close that. That's what you opened. So let me just close that. There you go.
All right. So let me work first with this as a repeating pattern. Now, technically, if I move this, it should line up, and it should repeat. Oh, excuse me, got to hit the right click. If I hit Shift, of course, it keeps it in line, and then I get close and I right click it. All right, and you can see how the pattern continues across. This is a really good example of being able to get in here, zoom in close, and able to really line that up. So I'm going to click it and start to move it, and then hit the Shift, and that'll keep it in line. Now, because I'm working so large, I can move this at such accuracy that now I have a perfectly sealed. Now, it'll show that line on some zooms, but it's really, when you go in there and look, it's negligible. Or you can actually get rid of it if you want, but it'll not show up with the laser because it's much, much finer than the laser cutting beam. So, once you have that, if you want, you can just grab both together, and we'll go down this way. I'm going to shift it, and then I'm going to just get close and right click, and now I've got the pattern in this direction. Of course, I go in closer, and the closer you get, I'll move it and then shift, and then you can bring it right up, and there you go. So now you've got this very nice pattern. Now, depending on the size you want, I'm going to go ahead and combine these right now. So now that's one object. Okay. So this is how you would do a repeating pattern. And you keep working with bigger and bigger items. See, if I do Shift, I can go over too far. Oh, this one worked. Oop. Okay. And if you need a break too, I apologize. I could stop talking and we could all take a break. So just okay, great. Okay, so now we have this large pattern here. So that shows you how the Shift will move it left to right, click, then zoom in and get it close. And this is how you get the really good accuracy. The one thing about it is that the laser will not pick up a lot of little things, but what it does pick up as an accident really shows up badly. So you want to use this zooming in as much as possible to make sure everything is just perfect. I'm going to, I'll show you what the difference is between this and the kaleidoscope repeating pattern is. And this is a really interesting, I'm going to use the same element that I did. I don't know if it's how well it's going to be, but let me ungroup it here. Get my element back. Okay. Of course, you know, you can just select and hit delete, and it's whatever you've got is gone. Okay. When you select it, you have the pieces on all the corners there. All right? Now, the difference between a background and a kaleidoscope is that you grab an element and you drag it across the image itself. So I'm going to make it smaller like this. What happens is that when you get to the center line, it flips it over backwards. You see that? So if I hit Control, it'll flip it exactly the same dimension. And hit the right one. Now I have, can you see what's going on there? I have now folded it back on itself.
So as you're dragging, you press Control.
Control, and it'll make a duplicate. Now, that's the first thing I'm going to show. Now watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and now drag the top, hit Control, and watch when as soon as I get to the bottom line, it'll snap the entire size to the other side. Right click, and there's your pattern. All right? And what you can do with patterns is really kind of fun, is you can go ahead and Control, right click. They are perfectly lined up at all times. And you can just keep building patterns this way. Now, if you don't, let me do this one for a change. If you just drag it and right click, you can see what happens. So that's why the Control is really important, to drag it up. So it's up, down, Control, and as soon as you get past the point on the other side, it'll flip over. Does that make sense? So where this kind of becomes kind of fun, actually, is, well, let me do one more real quick, sorry. There is one more keyboard shortcut, and it doesn't really matter too much in unless you want to line up things a little bit different way. If you're dragging this over left and right, you can see how that's with nothing selected. With Control, it snaps to the end. If you hit Shift and Control at the same time, it turns it on its axis, and you will get it just flipped. So this is really good. Say you have, let me do a real quick example here. I think we should still have the Star Trek or whatever it was. Okay, say you want to put that design, put that in a piece of acrylic, and you want to be able to read it. Well, on clear acrylic, you need them backwards because you're going to engrave in the backside in order to do it. So the simplest way is just to grab that there, hit Control, and there you go. You've got your backwards piece. You don't need to hit that. So you can do all your work, an entire design, using different. Let's make this a little more fancy. Let's do a green, and we'll give it a black border by doing that. Let's do it a red border. What the heck? Okay. So, and then say you want to have that in the back of acrylic, or you want to engrave it on the front of wood. All you do is hit Control, bring it over, and there you go. So it's a really good way for working with lettering, depending on whether you're doing on the back of something or the front of something. Is that all? Does that make sense for you there? Okay. All right. Now you can get these designs online, and we'll go over that a little later. But there's where this really becomes powerful in a design technique is that you can come in here, and we're going to make, let's try something kind of Art Deco-y. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw some things, and I'm going to and it may not look like much at this point. Now again, you can use that Control Shift is real important in that. Let's give an example here of this thing I'm drawing while I'm doing it. Or a circle would be better. If you draw a circle, it can be any shape. If you hit Shift, it will constrain in one direction. So you can get really accurate as far as that goes. Hit Control and Shift, and it constrains in both directions. So you can do exact circles. Okay. So I'm going to take this circle. I'm going to select this element, and I'm going to line them up with E and C. All right. Now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make that one a little bigger and grab the outside. This is the way I do my design stuff. I'll do it all in red first, and then I'll go back through and change it to the weights and things I need. All right, we're going to put that there. Now, do a couple more odd things. Over here on the rectangle tool, there's a little arrow, and this will do a 3-point rectangle, which will just give you 3 sides of the square if you need that. But the fun one is here, and this is the spiral. It depends on what it's set at. It lets you do polygons, stars, complex stars, all sorts of interesting things. Let's grab a polygon here and draw it. All right, there we have a polygon. And then all you have to do is come up here to the top, and you can change how many sides are on that just by clicking. So if you need a 12-sided or 9-sided, it doesn't matter. It has the same, if you go in here to star, draw a star, and if you hit Control-Shift, it'll be perfectly symmetrical. Then you can just come up here, and you can just add points, as many as you want. Okay. Now what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to go ahead and fill this one with light gray. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and change that font size. Now I'm working on that element. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker at the top. I'll move it over here. Okay, and grab that, I'm going to make that, let's just say, make it a little bit darker. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm going back into my elements and I'm going ahead and changing them into different line widths. I can do a 2 there. On here I can do a black. We'll make that one a 3. The spiral will do right click on black, round, there we go. And we'll make that a, so does everybody see what I'm doing here? I'm just touching up the design. All right. And on that one I'm going to do a line around it, and I'll put a fairly heavy one there. Let's do a 4. Okay. One last one. You want to make sure that you don't want any hairline reds in there anywhere, because you will end up cutting your project in half. So you make sure you do that. And those will show up in when you send it to the laser. They'll show up bright red on the laser, so you'll see them even if they're hidden. They'll show up. Okay, so here is what you would call a kind of a goofy design. So I'm going to go ahead and group all those together. The next thing we're going to learn is I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to put a background on this. So I'm just going to draw a square around it. And I'm going to go ahead and fill it with, say, a very light gray. And no box. So as you know, each thing you use goes on top of the next item. So when you do this, all you have to do is you have to bring this below the other. And that's easy by just doing Object, Order, Back of Page. So there's the design on the front. Okay. So what I've done is I've given it a solid palette behind it. And I'm going to go ahead now and select everything and just group it. So this is now all one item. Okay. Here's where designing for backgrounds and different things gets really fun. And that is based on whatever your design is. And I'll show you other ways to get different designs. There is a you go ahead and let's say we want to do, let's just do a square over here. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag that square anywhere it looks interesting. Okay. And drop it there. Okay, see that square? When you select both items, the square, which is going to be your cookie cutter, and the design, which is your dough, we'll go ahead and select both. There is this line up here. See it with the little dark square in the middle? Click that, and what that'll do is it will cut out that design for you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, so you see that design? It doesn't look like much now, but when you start doing your patterns on it, excuse me, you start getting very interesting design elements start showing up. And so you all of a sudden are getting these very complex designs, which people think it must have taken you hours to do. But it is really very simple. So there we started with that design from that really simple little sketch. And you can go in and change the lines on the main element. You can shade or you can do different things on it. Any questions on that? Do you each want to try one real quick? And, what's that? Okay, we'll do it again. I'll make a cut out of this cut. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and you have to do items that are 2 items. So I'm going to go ahead and combine all of that. And I think this time let's do a circle. Oh, come on now. It's thinking.
What was the purpose of the larger box that you did in the one?
Because
Before you started cutting.
because when you move that onto something else, what's behind it will come through. So if you're putting it over another design, it's invisible. But by putting a solid box behind it, even if it's white, it will not let anything behind it show through. Okay. So you want to layer designs on top of it like a book,